And we're going.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is Frank van Burkum. I plan to give you guys a little bit of short-term, like what can you do in the like information on what can you do in the short term to deal with, situations you have, like maybe job-wise, finance-wise, and just give some thoughts on like how to tackle those. Now, um, what this is absolutely not. It is like when you look here, a lot of financial presentations are about stocks, bonds, CDs, bitcoins, what to do. This is absolutely not about that. The other thing you might expect is this, which is a I'll push this out a little bit, a get rich quick scheme. This is absolutely not a quick get rich quick screen or presentation either. So this is just about hard work. Just and we'll get to that later. Now, before we start, I would like to thank the library for hosting this, and also all our essential and frontline workers in our current crisis. All the brave people out there that help us and assist and provide care even for people that try and stay at home and try and stay safe. So thank you for that. The agenda for today is a quick intro, which we're in right now, a framework on like what it is actually that I'm talking about today. Then in money, you can be offensive and defensive. And so we're talking about a defensive way of going about working with your money. Then one concept I really want to touch on is called a snowball. And so with a snowball, um, it shows the way on how you can start taking care of one to the other debt, but we'll get to that later too. And the next, to close out, like just some resources, like, where can I find this information again? About me, my finance is not necessarily my main occupation. However, 4 years ago, I did jump into actually. So here you go. I read Dave Ramsey's book. It's called The Total Money Makeover. It's available at the library, so you can just get it at the library. I also started listening to all those podcasts, and at that point in life, I was actually looking at like I felt like a little bit like a hamster on a wheel, just running financially. And so the process we've been through in the past 4 years is just to like structure money, label every dollar, budget, and know what to spend when. And so that's the most important piece. And so I've done stupid stuff with money, probably like everybody else. Like, we lost money in the dot-com crash. I thought I had the best investment, single stocks, lost a lot of money. I also put like a motorcycle on a home equity line, a HELOC. And so those are not smart things to do, really. And so call it sort of maturing your financial approach. So at this point, as a family, we're debt-free, and it's a great feeling not to have to worry about money or like paying like a car loan. So that's my background. If you're interested, my accent is Dutch. I've been in the US for over 20 years. So to the framework. Now, the framework itself, I have prepared here 2 boxes. I'll move it a little bit this way. So it's really simple. The ideal way of going about with your money, so this is your income. So this is the income box. So your roof or your shelter should be 25%. Then your operational expenses, I'll make it ops, ideally something like 25%. And then you have room here for things like retirement, or like 5 to 9 kids college, all that stuff. So um, call it 25% for retirement. And these are not exact. These numbers are pretty exact. Your home, so your home, your rent or your mortgage, if you look at your take-home pay on a monthly basis, your mortgage should be exactly 25% of that take-home pay. So if your take-home pay is, say, $4,000, your rent or your mortgage cannot be more than $1,000. I'll show you why. And then here, this is a 25% for, say, fun. Because with money, you can do three things. You can save it, you can give it away, and you can have fun with it. And so that's an important piece. You don't always have to, the hard work is no fun if you want to become debt free. After that, you should have fun with your money. Now, what often happens is this square gets sort of, people want to have a bigger home. So suddenly, like the home, this is your roof, it has a bigger piece. And then from an operational perspective, like, you go out and eat, go out and eat. And then here you still have, for instance, maybe you still have, say, a student loan hanging out there. And then here, there's not much room left. Now, in this situation, if you have a roof of 25% on all your operational, so your utilities, your groceries, anything that you have, like, that you need on a monthly basis just to keep the house running. If you have that at the 50% level, then say if this is a household with 2 jobs and one person loses their job, you really lose this whole 50%. So then for a while, there is no money for retirement, and there's no money for fun things, and there is no money for college savings for the kids. However, you're still in a good spot. You can survive here. So your house is not that big, your car is probably old, but you're in a good shape and you don't worry about money. Now, if you go outside the 25% here, 25% there, like suddenly, like if this income would be cut in half, then this still needs to be paid for. So then that's when the crisis, the crisis at home starts. Like, how are we going to pay for this? Student loan interest, that by itself is pretty big. It depends on how big your loan is. That still needs to be paid. And I didn't have it in here. Ideally, that should be in here too. We were just talking it through, right? And then all your habits of eating out and the way you just go about, like on vacation, etc. So you will have to suddenly like really tighten the belt and stop doing all that, which is truly, it's like, it's no fun, because like all your patterns of what you think is like feeling rich. Well, if you spend like this, you won't end up rich, but you're feeling rich. You're feeling rich is gone too. So you have to make some big decisions here. And so that is the framework that I'm talking about, as in like, live within your means. It's an old saying, but it's really important due to when a moment of crisis hits, then you're in a good shape to actually weather it, and you don't have to make emergency decisions like grab any job. You can wait for a little bit and then find actually a job that you might get paid better, or that you actually like better. Now, the trick here as well is it's not a trick. It's what we're going to go through in the next, I think, 20 minutes is that all these thoughts and the plans you're going to make yourself after seeing this presentation, if you're married, your spouse should actually be on the same page. If not, like if you're talking this through and if one is trying to save and the other one is spending on the back end, it's like one is plugging a hole in the boat and the other one is making a hole in the boat. And so the boat is still full with water, and then one person is stressed out and the other person might not care that much. So you need to get onto that same page. So you have to, back to the hard work piece, like you almost have to like sell your TV, sit down at the kitchen table and start creating your first budget, as in like, what are we actually spending our money on? How are you spending your money? How am I spending my money? And then you start getting to that bigger picture. Instead of like, thinking that you're doing all the right things, you actually need to start labeling every dollar that comes in and every dollar that's going out. And if you're planning one of these dollars, like, well, I think this is for retirement, or this is for savings for the yard equipment, like you want a tractor. If you want to save that and put it in the budget, then within your budget, the dollars need to be labeled so that or dollars in the savings account need to be labeled in a virtual way that like, hey, these dollars are for that purpose. It cannot just be a wash or like a pot of money you can dig into. So back to being on the same page, very important. Otherwise, there will be frustration, disappointment. And so you have to talk to each other and say, like, this is really important to me. Can we talk this through? And I'm looking here to my left. I have some notes here as well. This is the big overview. So right now what I just did is the framework. Very important to stay, say, on your daily expenses within 50% of your income. And then we talked a bit about just hard work and being on the same page. Let's switch to putting on the brakes. It's what I have part of my defense, and I'll share my screen of some of the things that I typed up that we can take a look at. And before we do that, I'll switch around here. In case, say, right now, if you're in financial stress and you actually, probably everything is coming at you. Like, these bills need to be paid. The car broke down. The utilities bill just came in. There was an unexpected medical visit or medical issue, and everything is coming at you. So how can you just actually create like a core of, at least to start out from? Like, if you start fighting, if you're gonna go onto the defensive, then you need a core. So, sorry. What should you always pay? And I'll tell you also why this is. You always need to pay for food. You need to eat. You need to fuel. It's like, it's pretty clear, right? Always need shelter. So you need to pay your rent. You need to pay the mortgage. You cannot skip these. That's on the moment you start skipping a mortgage, a bank takes notice. Bank will actually take possession and will take your house. And some people think it's just like the bank will do all the proceedings. What the bank will do, they will take the house, they will sell the house on your behalf, and whatever is the difference, they will sue you for. So the troubles only get bigger. So same with the rent. The landlord also needs to pay his mortgage. So he will find a renter that will pay. So always pay for shelter. Transportation. You need to be able to get to a job. You need to create the opportunity for yourself to go to a place where you can earn money. So in general, keep your transportation, whatever it is, like, keep that in a good shape. And then, so make sure, like, whatever it is that, if the money that you have available, keep that transportation running. Clothing, you need to be well dressed. If you cannot pay for the heat or turn the thermostat lower, then you need to have clothing to dress yourself well for a job interview, or just to stay warm. And lastly, utilities bill. So always pay for your utilities, because the water can be turned off, gas can be turned off, and you can sort of try your luck, as in like, hey, maybe they will not do it, and you can do it for a few months. you also have to think through, well, when will I pay it? Because like in the end, everything will start accumulating and you will still have to pay these bills. So pay these on a monthly basis. So these are the 5 must-haves. So what do you then do with everything else? So with everything else, you just pay the minimums. Like if you have a credit card, only pay the credit card minimum payment. And so let's see if I can think of another good example. Say you have a car loan. Well, the car loan is part of your transportation, but it's whatever it is that the bill you're looking at, give them a call and ask them and say like, hey, this is my situation. How can I pay the minimum here for a while to keep this going? However, I'm in dire straits. I'm going to get to XYZ later. So pay minimum the rest. So minimum on the rest. The other thing with personal finance or like, saving, spending, is that personal finance is 80% of behavior and 20% is basic math. So you don't need to be a finance wizard to actually like get ahead in life. The book I showed you from Dave Ramsey, he has a baby step program. I'm addressing really the first 2 steps here. The steps help you just walk through as like a way of like, when to spend your money, like when to spend your money on what. So in this case, I already showed like these are the essentials you need to spend your money on. You do the minimum on the rest, and then now I just got a call from downstairs. We're all working from home, right? So, but I lost my thought here on the personal finance behavior. I'll get back to it. Then, the behavior part really is that, say you have a habit of like drinking a cup of coffee, or you go by Starbucks every day. So if that what makes you feel good or like rich, then you're spending $6 a day on something like to make you feel good. If you do the math, like $6 times say 300 days a year that you do this, you're spending $1,800 on coffee. And so spending that much money, for a person that manages the money well, that's like a ticket to a lot of places. Like you can plane ticket and fly there. And everything I'm saying right now, I know we're in a crisis, but we'll get through this together. Just as an example, or that 1,800 you can actually already put towards your retirement savings. So, look at your own behavior. You might have to change your behaviors. It might not be fun. However, let's look at a couple of things that you can do to be defensive with your money. So I have a screen here I'd like to share, and then when I click on the share screen, and then here we are. You should be able to, let's see, share, and the window switches, and here we are on so this is the defense side, and then also, so that I called it put on the brakes, and then step on the gas. And so put on the brakes would be, okay, how can you spend less? Now, I just touched on like the coffee example, and you'll be surprised when you start doing the math. In the beginning, when I started, I created a spreadsheet with all kinds of daily items we were using, and then I just had an automatic calculation for the amount of days that we were using it. It was just mind-blowing to see like what certain items were costing, what we would spend on those on a yearly basis. So what we did is that we did start with a budget. And budgeting is not easy because there's things that are variables, and so it takes quite a bit of focus to do it, but it's very worthwhile doing. And we went bare minimum to everything. So let's run through a couple of things. Cancel all your subscriptions, Netflix, Prime, anything you have. It's like just cancel everything. So no more monthly recurring expenses. If you have, say, AAA, and you've had it for years, well, look in your car insurance package. They might already have roadside assistance in it. So then look at what you have, what the terms and conditions are, and then maybe drop AAA if it's a duplicate of what you already have in your, say, what's included for free with your car insurance. Lower insurance costs. So like start listing, and then actually on top of that, start making a list of all the items you consider tracking. So all the things you're attacking, you need to make a list, and then also sort of make notes of your progress, because then you know, like, okay, I need to follow up on this, I need to follow up on that. And then if you're working together, like as a family, then you can assign action items and say, hey, you are on like calling the car insurances and get different quotes. And so then you can sort of divide and conquer. Say increasing deductibles is like, it doesn't feel very good. Say you increase your deductible for, say, a car accident to say $5,000. And then you just know that if you get a dent, or like you will have to pay for everything. But for the time being, you can increase that deductible to lower your car insurance. If you still have student loans, you can actually call the company. Say you're in a dire financial situation, you would like to put them on deferment. And so you won't have to pay, interest will keep accruing, but at least you can keep that at bay for a while you focus on these 5 essentials. And then, and then you at least have that off your list of something that goes out every month. Utilities, call them and ask them what the budget amount is going to be. What it will do is that you always have it will change your payments to a set amount per month. So you're not looking at a $200 air conditioning bill every summer. It will change to what you're spending on a year divided by 12. So that really helps with budgeting. People love to give gifts. People love to give something to somebody to please somebody. Be creative, make something yourself, write a card. No more spending, no more presents. Life is going to be pretty dull. However, like every dollar helps. Like even like giving gifts to kids parties, it's like, well, I have to give the kids. We've been creative in terms of like giving something that didn't cost us a lot of money, just because we were addressing a budget. So no donations of any kind. And then maybe if you're Catholic and you're tithing, think that through, or maybe talk to your pastor if you're Catholic. So like what you're comfortable with, but no donations for a while. You will, when everything is said and done and you work towards being debt free, then you can just give that money away and not worry about it. And lastly, food wise, and I've heard people do it. It's like, I've mentioned Dave Ramsey. I've listened to many of his shows. I've heard people pay off like in the hundreds of $1,000s with doctors that said how dumb they were. But I have people that paid off $30,000, but they were only making $30,000 a year. So people that actually live on rice and beans literally for a stretch of time, half year, just to get through the roughest piece. And so in that way, save a lot of money. And so they as well mention like how boring that is. But to be debt free, or to work towards becoming debt free, is worth a journey. Now, some things to, so there's 2 ways about this, right? One, so this is your income. We address the cost piece. So like decrease, so you have more money left over. Then the other way is like, maybe you can increase your income. So that's instead of put on the brakes, step on the gas, but you have to do both. So it's not like, I'll get a second job and not address all the other things. And so step on the gas is like, do yard sales. Now these, in our current crisis, that's harder. We'll figure things ways out, but you can sell things online, or you'll figure it out. So sell everything you have. Like just look around you, like make the kids afraid that you're going to sell the dog. Add a second job. there's still a need for Ubers or delivering pizza or delivering all other kinds of things. Like the delivery is still a big deal right now. So get a delivery job, and then maybe you're comfortable with your current job, but maybe you know that there's jobs out there that you might have to travel more, and you need to stretch yourself. However, it might pay more, and so it might also mean that you might see your family less. However, that would be then the way to go. So, one, lower cost. Two, increase your income. Now, how does that relate to the snowball? And I'll stop sharing my screen. So the snowball, so I have that concept lined up here, at least the start of it. So say this is what you can save, right? Because it might be actually a really small amount that you can save. When you decrease your costs and trying to increase your income, you might just feel like you're just barely getting ahead. But what happens when you do that? So you save, and it feels like it takes ages because every month you're like, oh my gosh. But you save and you attack the smallest. So these are 3 pieces of debt that you have. You attack the smallest first. And some people argue around like, well, you should attack the one with the highest interest rate first, or et cetera, et cetera. Don't just, from a psychological perspective, just only attack the first one, the smallest one. Because what happens with the smallest one, on the moment you shoot all these holes in it, it suddenly disappears. And so all this money that you were spending here, because it's still a debt. So all this, like say you were paying interest on this, like all the money suddenly frees up. So this little ball suddenly becomes this little ball. And so you start shooting these kinds of balls to this debt. You start filling this one. So this one is bugging you as well with interest and all minimum payments, et cetera, et cetera. When that's out of the way, suddenly like your snowball becomes bigger and bigger. And then you're starting to shoot some really big pieces like at the last one. And so what you will have left over is maybe, is the house. And that's way down the line. But at least this is the snowball concept. When you grab the smallest one and you just start going down the line, start paying them off, you feel with every one that you pay off, it's like, yay. And then the next one, yay. And then you get to the third one, you're like, oh, this is rough. And then you chuck through it. And then in the end, you get it paid off. And then you're like, wow. And so it's a great morale booster just to keep going and focus on it and like keep paying these debts off, smallest to largest. So that's very important. So that is the snowball concept. So I'll go back to the other side. Let's see where we're at with our presentation. So here's the snowball. So what we did in this quick presentation is, we discussed the framework of living within your means and ideally within half of what you make on your daily expenses. So then so that helps in terms of the crises that you can actually keep going. The one thing I didn't touch on, so it's nice to recap actually, is that as part of this snowball and the must spend on, you need to create a $1,000 emergency fund. That's going to be your buffer. You need to have that in place when you start out with the snowball and you start creating your financial core, when you start paying off, when you're ready to attack it, because you have to be sick and tired of your debts and the way you spend and your income. So you have to save for the $1,000. So like if you sell everything that you have and get to the $1,000, that would be fantastic, right? So you sell like a high pressure cleaner, high pressure washer that you never use. Sell that. Sell something else. Sell all kinds of whatever you can do. Sell cookies. Get $1,000 in place. So because like once you have a program in place and you start going, and you're enthusiastic about like what it is that you're working on, and it's still hard work though. That if there's a bump in the road, like your car tire blows, with $1,000, you can grab 500, fix that issue, Then you build it back up to 1,000, and no more than 1,000. You just don't make that bigger, and then just keep going. There are some exceptions for like, say, seasonal workers on what they need to do, but that's for a different day. That's not for now. So $1,000, always have that ready. No more, no less than 1,000, and then use that to clear bumps in the road and keep going. So then we talked about the, so this is the framework. So have defense. I shared some items that hopefully, and you can stop the video as well, that you can just like write down and see what works for you. And then we covered the snowball concept. It's like where you attack your depths, smallest to largest, and then just keep pounding. You know, the further down you go, like to the larger one, it feels like it takes ages, but you see it getting there, and you just can already, like the math nerds, like in a family, there's always like a math nerd and a spender and a thrifty one, and so like you can already sort of project when this will be done, and it could be like, you know, 9 months from now that the biggest debt will be gone. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like this is never going to end. This is no fun. And no, you haven't been to the movies like for a year, and you know the whole process might take you 2 years really. And so it's a grind, but it's a worthwhile grind. And then lastly, for some resources, and I'll move this a little bit this way. I have them here. I have them on the whiteboard, but I didn't want to distract you guys, so I just put I reused a piece of paper here. And so for resources, like, you know, for the free resources, so for Dave Ramsey I've mentioned, I'm gonna show them again, like when you can get the book at the library. The scissors are really like, that's what he calls plastic surgery. And I didn't mention that, but he has got a good point. Cut up your credit cards because it makes it easier to buy things. On the moment you have cash in your hand, in your wallet, and you have to spend it, and even with a debit card, you just know that it will go out of your debit, and it's like it feels different. It's like, it's not like, I will get to the bill later. No, it's like money that you have that you spend. It just feels different. So cut up those credit cards. The program itself, so there's a program called FPU, and so you can look it up and see if that's something for you. This whole concept by itself is a proven program that has worked for millions of people, all walks of life. I've probably listened to hundreds and hundreds of hours of podcasts, and part of the podcast is people that do a debt-free scream. At times I get tears in my eyes just from the happiness and the stories from the people that have been through 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Like you should be done in 2, but people that went through a grind and are so happy that they did it, and it's a morale booster. So, you know, go for the free resources here, because you can get this book at the library. You can read it yourself. When you read it, you're ready to go. You don't necessarily, when you get it, you don't necessarily need to go to a 9-week class. And so there's daily podcasts, daily YouTubes are live. You can add comments there. So that show is also on the radio, and there's a website that you can look at. I could have listed other websites and other things to look at. My passion is really about this program, how it works with the steps. $1,000 as your emergency fund, and then you start your core of like paying the 5 essentials, and then you just start like putting minimum on the rest, and then you just start attacking your debts until all these debts are gone. And so this will take a while. It's not easy. It's a grind. And then when you are at that point, suddenly you can start thinking about things like, oh, now I can start thinking about a bigger, like a 6-month, like a 6-month worth of an emergency fund, like 6 months of like your operational cost, so that you become even more comfortable in life. Like like if you would lose your job, you can relax. You're like, okay, we got this. And so then you can start thinking like, oh, now I finally have money for retirement, and I didn't list it in my put on the brakes. Part of what put on the brakes is like, don't put any money in retirement. Just don't. Even if you get matching for your 401k, don't just attack the debt. And then you can start thinking about other things, and then life is much better that way. So that's what my passion is. lots of free resources. You just put a podcast player on your phone and then just look for Dave Ramsey, start listening. Doesn't cost you a thing. Anyhow, I hope this was helpful for everybody. And no advice about Bitcoin, bonds, CDs, etc. Just down-to-earth advice. It's almost like the advice you would get from your grandma, right? Spend your money wisely, and turn every dime. So this is not something new. I mean, this has been practiced. Like, people use something like it's called like an envelope system, like the way they budget, and that really might help with when with people that are have a tough time not spending. It's like or they have a tough time yet controlling themselves. So in an envelope, you'd put like money that you have saved for groceries, and you put it in the envelope, and that's your money for the whole month. And so on the moment that you have more month than money, then you need to adjust your spending. So then you need to, instead of buying brand X, you need to go for brand Z and see if you can spend, if that $5 a week you save, if that, if then your money stretches further into the month. And so when you put your money in these envelopes, and there's people that walk around with lots of envelopes in a possession, because that's how they spend the money. In that way, you can really control your budget. So just some things to think through. A lot of information. I really appreciate the library and you're making this happen. If possible, leave comments. And I'll have another session next week, and that's really on the 7 baby steps in more detail. So then if you can join those, that would be the 30th of April. Then I would love to have you then, and hopefully we can be interactive. So thank you very much.